Hi everyone, this is Mindy for Honeybee Stamps, and in today's video, I'm taking the beautiful Lovely Layers Mom die set and turning it into a Halloween flower, almost kind of gothic style. Whenever I get ready to play with a Lovely Layers die set, I die cut it out of white cardstock first. So that's what I did here with the Lovely Layers Moms. And then I really wanted to kind of stretch this image. It is gorgeous in so many colors, but I really wanted to tie it into a Halloween card. And when I did some Googling with Halloween flowers, this is the card design and kind of color scheme that I came up with. So I'm taking all of those layers and I am ink blending on Dusty Concord Distress Oxide ink using my blending brush. Now, I'm not doing the centers because that's most likely going to get covered up once I start gluing everything together. I am working on a stencil mat, which kind of helps almost grip the cardstock so it doesn't move around a lot while I'm adding the color. Now, I really, to simplify the process, could have started with a colored cardstock, but I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it just yet until I did some Googling of images. Then I'm going to go back through all of those layers and I'm adding on some black soot distress oxide ink. I'm just doing this to the very outer edges of the flower because, as I said, as this layers up, we're only going to see the edges of most of those layers. Now, when I do layer it, we will still see the hints of purple, and I think this really came out kind of cool. Now, if you really wanted to give it flair and have those black edges stand out more, you could use regular distress ink. The oxides kind of taper the color down a little bit. After that, I'm taking the leaves. So I die cut 4 of the leaves out of the set and I'm adding the black soot to that. So I'm starting with just a really light base layer and then I'm going to come back into the edges and darken those edges up a little bit. So I'm almost giving it a shadow look to the leaves. I wasn't sure if I was going to use all 4 leaves, but I'd rather start with more ready to go versus having to stop and die cut more later on. So after everything is all ink blended, I layered up the flower in the order that it's going to go, and then I took them off in that order. So that way I know exactly how they're going to go back together. And the layering sets really fit together like a puzzle and create such dimensional images. I am using the Honeybee Stamps liquid glue to layer this up, and it is always best once it's done to put something heavy on top of it to really let that glue set in, especially since my ink is probably still wet on this image that I ink blended. So I'm just going to finish putting these together like a little puzzle, adding in each of those to create that dimension. So after I finish adding all these layers together, here's a look at how that is. And I think that is a great Halloween flower. Now for the rest of the card, I am taking white cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, prepped it with an anti-static powder tool, and then I'm inking up this spider web from the Happy Halloween stamp set. I'm really getting my use out of this spider web as I can because I probably won't use this after Halloween. So I'm stamping this in Versafine ink because it does stay wet a little longer, and I can sprinkle on the black sparkle embossing powder from Hero Arts. I'm going to tap off any excess, and then once my heat tool is hot, I always kind of swipe it on the back really quick and then come to the front and melt that embossing powder. I just seem to get better results and it heats up a lot faster and melts that powder faster. Now I'm just bringing in my flower and leaves and kind of getting an idea of the arrangement. Now, honestly, this is exactly how the graphic looked that I had gotten the inspiration from, and I really liked it. But I wanted to add in that really cool black cat from the stamp set if the broom fits. Just kind of some added detail. You don't have to do this if you don't want. I'm inking it up in the black Versafine ink once again. Now, this is a pretty solid image, so I'm going to stamp it again to make sure I'm getting crisp results. I had also stamped a spider, but I am not going to end up using that. But I am using a sentiment from the Fall Foliage frame stamp set, and this is Hello, my friend. So it doesn't have to be necessarily a Halloween card. Maybe your friend just really likes Halloween themed things. It doesn't have to say Happy Halloween. So I dried that quick with a heat tool because Versafine ink, like I said, stays wet longer. And then I used the coordinating dies to die cut out those sentiments. Now here I am just spritzing on some white iridescent shimmer spray from Hero Arts just to add a little sparkle to it and almost kind of a mixed media effect. Now once that's done, I had trimmed my spider web panel down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. I added foam tape behind that and I'm popping it up on an A2 size card base. Now I can start pulling in all the elements for my card. So I laid out my arrangement with that flower, and I'm starting with the leaves in the very back, just adding those with some liquid glue. And then I'm also going to add the flower using the liquid glue. I had planned on popping up the sentiment and that black cat. So I added those foam dots behind the black cat. And off screen, I die cut out the hello and my friend from white cardstock a few times and layered them together. It was easier to give dimension to it by layering cardstock versus trying to cut a bunch of tiny foam squares and add the dimension. So just taking some liquid glue and adding that to the front of the card. And I'll put a heavy block on top of it just to make sure that's really adhered because my spider web has that texture to it. And then I'm just finishing this off by adding some of these shimmery gems to the front. They're kind of a foggy silver to them, so they're really pretty and tied in well with the background. That's going to finish up the card project for you today. I hope this has given you some ideas and other ways and themes that you can use the lovely layers sets. Thank you so much for joining. See you again soon.